It's time to make it, just give it a try. 'Cause you can make it like the old fat guy.
Welcome to another video from David Farrell, the Old Fat Guy. Today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to make some beef jerky from a kit. I'm going to be using the Hi Mountain jerky blends of spices to make it and following their instructions. I've made their stuff several times before and I really enjoy it. Today I'm going to be doing their one with a, what do they call it here, a bourbon barbecue blend. So we'll give that a try because I haven't tried that flavor before. I just wanted to show you how easy it is to use their kit and what a great product it makes. So the particular kit that I'm using today calls for 4 pounds of beef or any other kind of meat you're using. I'm going to be using eye of the round because I find it's nice and lean, and the one thing that seems to be an enemy of jerky to me is fat. So I'm using a leaner cut of meat. Of course, I'm going to start my preparations with the ingredient that's common to all my videos, copious quantities of wine taken internally. And let's get a piece of beef over here and look at what we're going to do with it. So here's a couple of pounds of roast, and I've got another one over there. Now I put this in the freezer for about an hour first just to firm it up, because I want to be cutting it to 1/4 inch thickness, and it's easier to do if it's just a little bit on the chilled side. I'll get out a really sharp hand slicer which gives straight cuts, and I want to cut it about 1/4 inch. But as I said, fat is really an enemy of jerky, so I'm going to try and cut off as much of the fat as possible. Now you're going to lose a little bit of meat, but trust me, it's worth it just not to have any fat in your jerky. So we'll take off all the large pieces of fat. And there's some more over here. Now, you can use these cuttings in sausages or anything else you're making in the future, but trust me, just get it off your jerky. And one last one there. Okay, one more piece right here. Now, if you leave any on, it's not the end of the world. It just gives you what I find is not good a texture in your jerky. So try and get it and any silver skin like this off of your beef. Now you want to try and cut it into about 1/4 inch thick slices. Now, do not panic. It doesn't have to be exactly a 1/4 inch. Just get close to it. And if it's a little thinner, it'll be chewier. If it's a little thicker, it'll be softer. So just get close. So we'll just start cutting this into slices. It's nice if you can get them even because they do dry at the same rate then, but I've never had much problem. I just like to cut it up like that. Now, as you cut it up, you got to start thinking about how wide do you want your strips to be. These are all pretty wide because it's from the thick end, so I'm going to cut them in half. And eventually I'm going to need these spread out in a single layer on a tray. So I'll just spread these out on a tray because I'm going to be doing that to sprinkle some seasonings on it later. So I'll just get this all laid out here. And we'll keep doing the rest of the beef, and I'll be back with you in a minute. I've sliced all my meat up, and I have 4 pounds of eye of the round cut to 1/4 inch thick and laid out on a couple of trays. Now, the instructions tell you how to make jerky of less than 4 pounds. You just have to use the measures on their little chart to adjust it. But I figure as long as I'm firing my smoker up, do all 4 pounds at once. Now you start off by putting this cure mix, which is a creamy powder, into a shaker. Now they give you a shaker with it, but I like to have a lid on mine, so I've substituted a spice shaker that I've used. And I've put, as per the instructions for 4 pounds, 2 tablespoons plus 2 teaspoons of the cure mix into this shaker. Now, each flavor they have comes with its own package. And again, they have instructions if you only want to use a part of it. But I'll be using it all, so I just have to dump the envelope in. So we open the envelope up, and we'll put that in the same container. There we go. So we've got it all in the shaker. Now here's why I like a lid on my container, is because I just find it easier to mix up. The one they give you has a hole and a shaker but no lid. By putting in one with a lid, I can get a really good mix. Okay, so once I've got it mixed up, I want to sprinkle about half of it over the surface of the beef. Try and hit them all. If the meat was damp at all, you'd want to pat it down with a paper towel first. Some meat's a little bloodier than others. This is pretty dry, so I feel okay. Okay, I've used about half of it, so now we're just going to flip it all over and do the other side. I like to rub it in a bit before I flip it. There we go. Let's get it all flipped over. So now that I've got it flipped over, we'll just sprinkle the other side with the other half of the cure and seasoning mix. And there we go, we got it all on there now. Now, again, I just like to rub it in a bit. Now, this is going to sit in the fridge for at least 24 hours to allow the cure to work its way through the meat. And the important thing to know is you can't leave it in a reactive tray. So these metal trays, they can't stay on this, because the metal will react with the meat and the seasoning spices. It's all right to mix them on, but you need to put them on something else. As you can see, I've put the meat into a plastic tray in layers. Now, according to their instructions, you just have to leave it for 24 hours. I have to admit, I prefer to stir it around a couple of times to make sure I get a good even cure during that 24 hours. But you can follow their instructions, or you can do what I say and stir it around. I think both would work fine. So this is just going to sit in the fridge overnight, and I'll see you in 24 hours. Welcome back. My jerky is sat in the cure for well over 24 hours. I usually do a couple of days, but today I actually went about 16 hours because I've got stuff to do tomorrow. And I'm just going to put it in my smoker, which I've preheated to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, you can lay them on the grill or on the rack and just smoke it. But I've got about 4 pounds here, and that takes up quite a bit of room. So a trick I've learned is if you put the slices on bamboo skewers like this, you can put these between the grates on the rack and get a lot more jerky in the same rack space by letting the jerky hang down off of the racks. And that's what I'm going to do on my smoker. Now, normally I take you out and show you me setting this up in the smoker, but it's blacker and dark out there, and I don't have any fancy lights. So you have to take my word for it that I'm going to put it in a 200-degree Fahrenheit smoker for 2 hours. You can also put it in a 200-degree Fahrenheit oven on racks for 2 hours, but I will tell you that smoke really adds something to jerky. So while it's really good from the oven, adding that bit of smoke is just the extra kiss. So give me a moment. I'm going to put this in the smoker and I'll see you after it's smoked. So the jerky has smoked for 2 hours at 200 degrees. And now's the time to give it a try. So we'll just take one of the pieces of jerky off of one of the skewers here. And we'll see that it's nice and dry on the surface. But if you rip it open, it's got some nice red in the center and still a soft texture. Now this is different from the jerky I used to make for years where you dried it out totally, trying to get as much moisture out of it as you could so that the dry would keep the beef from going bad. This is a cured jerky. What the curing does is helps it be okay to take for a couple of days out, but it won't last as long as the really dried stuff. So if you're not going to eat this in the next week, freeze it. So let's give our jerky a try. It's definitely less spicy than their original blend, but it's got a really good taste. The barbecue flavors are in there that it promises. So the barbecue bourbon is a really good jerky. I think I prefer the original a bit more, but I sure wouldn't turn this down on any day. It has a wonderful taste. It's really delicious, and the best part is you can make it.
I have a good woman, I ain't good looking, but I do some cooking, I'm the old fat guy. So use that oven if you want some lovin', be like the old fat guy. Be like the old fat guy.